The Prime Minister explains why corporate Barbados has to share the economic burden. The opposition leader launches a new political party. And in sports, England whip Bangladesh today to get their World Cup campaign back on track.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC Newsnight, starting now.
And a very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Lord with Newsnight for Saturday, June the 8th. In our top story, commercial banks and insurance companies in Barbados earned more than $3.5 billion in profit in the last decade before the last election. Prime Minister Mia Amor-Mottley made that revelation as she explained why government chose not to have workers alone bear the burden of the adjustments needed to revive the local economy. And she was speaking during a town hall meeting hosted by the Barbados High Commission over in London.
In the case of the banks, almost $1.5 billion in profit during the very same 10 years of the long-lost decade. And the insurance companies, $2.3 billion in profit. And therefore, they had a little girth and could withstand a little difficulty. And if you come to fasting having eaten properly for the weeks and months before, I suspect you can last a lot longer than others.
The Prime Minister suggests that any plan for workers to shoulder the full burden would have failed.
The perspective of sharing the burden and not believing that it is simply workers who must be on the front line all the time to make the adjustment and to pay the ultimate price was one that could not work this time, because you would be giving workers a bag, paper bag, to hold water, and they wouldn't get very far, and the country equally would not get very far. And that the consciousness that was required with respect to the leadership of our nation at this point in time was a consciousness that we have to come together in order to be able to make the adjustments.
Well, after months of speculation and hints, opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley has officially launched his political party. It's called the People's Party for Democracy and Development. Bishop Atherley, who is also the chairman and political leader, says the party, which first came into being on November 1st last year, was birthed out of a national crisis. Now, already opposition spokespersons have expressed interest in being candidates for the next general election. The party color is green and the breadfruit leaf is its symbol. Bishop Atherley says the party will promote a mixed economy and will be guided by a people-centered ethos. Its slogan is God, growth, and greatness.
It is more than a mere mantra for us, and as it is for Barbados. God comes first. Growth is our pursuit and passion, and it is the greatness that we always should aspire as a nation.
Well, the first party convention is slated for later this year, and Bishop Atherley says his team has met on a regular basis over the past few months and has already received support from members of the public.
I see people every day who are saying to us, to me, that there is scope in Barbados for a newness, a political entity that will take the people more seriously. They believe that the system under which we have lived and have been governed has proven to have some inadequacies.
A national industrial policy is being developed to assist Barbados' manufacturing industry. It comes as Minister of International Business and Industry Ronald Toppin reveals that the sector is not performing as it used to. While cognizant of the obstacles and challenges facing the sector, he says the objective is to ensure Barbados has a highly competitive and financially strong manufacturing industry.
We can move to boost our domestic exports significantly, create large numbers of employees again in the sector, earn foreign exchange, increase import substitution, as I might have said before, generate employment, of course, put the country's development on a more sustainable footing through our manufacturing sectors, improve performance, and of course deal with the issue of that will lead to the issue of the alleviation of poverty. That basically is where we want to go, basically in a nutshell.
Minister Toppin took in activities on day 2 of BMEX 2019, which is currently ongoing at the Lloyd Erskine Sanford Center. He interacted with several business persons as he browsed the exhibits, and from that interaction, several issues were raised.
Against outside forces. So where with the water, for example, the point was made about the water entity that we spoke to, the local entity here, that their quality is good, and I have no doubt Barbados' water is said to be one of the best in the world, or among the best in the world. But then this water is being brought into Barbados at such a cost that it's actually swamping the local producer, and therefore putting them in trouble financially. But that is a matter that is currently before my ministry, and therefore I'll take the best advice on that to see how we can work on it. Of course, these are things that have to be, in terms of rates of duty, in the end, ultimately these things have to be decided by court.
An educator and a social worker topped the Queen's 2019 Birthday Honours List for Barbados. The Commander of the Order of the British Empire, CBE, has been awarded to former Chief Education Officer Wendy Marlene Griffith-Watson. She's been honoured for her service to education management and human resource development. Former head of the Barbados Family Planning Association, George Griffith, has also been awarded the CBE. It's for services in the fields of social work and reproductive health. Now, the officer of the British Empire, OBE, has been awarded to Shirley Aileen King for her contribution to public services and Winston Walter Stafford for services to social work and cricket administration. The member of the British Empire, MBE, has been awarded to Rodney DeCourtney Prescott for services to secondary school education. Crop Over 2019 has officially started. It got underway during the first Citizens Crop Over launch and ceremonial delivery of the last canes in Speightstown, St. Peter this afternoon. Chief Executive Officer of the National Cultural Foundation, Carol Roberts-Reefer, says the announcement that Crop Over is now the 27th most popular festival in the world can only be attributed to all the hard work of all the stakeholders.
We owe it to the pioneers, the administrators, and stalwarts of the past to repackage this festival and strategically and proudly present it to Barbadians and peoples from all over the world for their enjoyment. Crop Over 2019 is but the start of this process. And while concepts and events and locations will change, one thing will always remain constant, and that is the collaboration of all partners and sectors to make it every year the best crop over that it can be.
Well, the industrial action over at the Caribbean Examinations Council, or CXC, is now over. This follows a more than 5-hour meeting chaired by the Labour Minister Colin Jordan, which ended late last night, involving officials from CXC and the Barbados Workers' Union. General Secretary of the BWU, Senator Tony Moore, says the council did not follow good industrial relations practices when the body advertised vacancies while a restructuring process was underway. She says that CXC recognized that an error was made and has moved to correct the wrongs.
The Barbados Workers' Union's position was that if we were to restore good faith and get back to a position where those restructuring talks could be concluded before any action was taken, that the vacancies would have to be pulled. They would have to be retracted. And after considerable effort and a lot of time, the CXC finally agreed that they would pull the ads. They will pull them from all media where they were advertised.
And Senator Moore says that dates have not yet been set for the restructuring discussions to recommence. Regional news now, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines has become the smallest nation ever to secure a seat on the United Nations Security Council. The country was one of 5 elected to the powerful 15-member body after a decade-long campaign. The other countries elected were Estonia, Niger, Tunisia, and Vietnam. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves says his country stands by the principles of the United Nations.
We are committed to the principles of the equality of states, non-interference and non-intervention in the internal affairs of other countries, defense of sovereignty and independence, and for overall sustainable development. Clearly, as a small island developing state, we are very concerned about the security consequences of adverse climate change.